Hare Krishna. So, warm welcome to all the devotees who have joined today for our continued discussion on the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have now arrived at the end of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today, we will be discussing from the 10th chapter, the last chapter in the second canto. The second canto is one of the smaller cantos, it comes in only one volume, you might have noticed. So, the second canto, 10th chapter is the last one. Today, we will try and cover not the entire chapter, but just the essential part of the 10th chapter, which is basically where Sukdev Goswami talks about the 10 topics that are covered in the Shrimad Bhagavat Puran. So we will try and discuss about that. Again, as I said, these are topics which are very humongous in nature, right? I mean, you can imagine having to give a summary of the 10 topics of the Shrimad Bhagavatam. Uh, it is virtually impossible. But whatever words have been given there by Sukhdev Goswami and the purports given by our acharyas, based on that, I will try and share a few thoughts. Please forgive me for any faults that are there that might creep up in this presentation, because this is not my area of expertise, and not to say anything is my area of expertise, but this certainly is something which is very difficult to visualize and conceptualize and speak about, but I will do my best for the pleasure of all the Vaishnavas. So last time, if you recall, we were talking about this topic where Parikshit Maharaj has just asked a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions to Sukhdev Goswami, and in response to that, Sukhdev Goswami, with great pleasure, he starts answering those questions first by citing the instructions given by Lord Narayan directly to Brahma, right? Which is what is the Chatushloki Shrimad Bhagavatam. We discussed those four verses of Chatushloki Bhagavatam in absolute essence. As I told you last time, uh, after actually after the lecture, I actually opened the physical book. Till then, I was reading the purports online on the Vedabase online. I was reading it in folio. Then I actually opened the book. I saw that the last verse, the 36th verse, it actually had 14 pages of purport. Okay, so that's how much Prabhupada has poured his heart into those purports. I hope at least some of you had the time to read through this wonderful Chatushloki Bhagavatam during the course of last week. If you haven't done it, I humbly urge you to kindly do that, because it's very purifying. This is the essence of all instructions that the Lord wants to give to all living entities for all time to come. So Shrimad Bhagavatam is, while from our time perspective, from our concept of time, we may feel that Shrimad Bhagavatam was spoken, maybe compiled some 5,500 years ago by Srila Vyasadeva. It was spoken by Sukdev Goswami some 5,200 years ago. It was compiled by Vyasadeva after that, written down. But really, this knowledge and those conversations are timeless. Okay, they are spoken in different kalpas. They are spoken in different time zones, different geographical zones. It's impossible for anyone to really comprehend it fully, right? But in this Chatushloki Bhagavatam and in this Bhagavatam whole as a whole, the Supreme Lord has incarnated as the Shrimad Bhagavatam for all the fallen souls of Kali Yuga, and it is our greatest blessing that we have received the Shrimad Bhagavatam in a language of our choice, be it English, be it Hindi, be it Marathi. We have received the Shrimad Bhagavatam, and it has been translated by the disciples and grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada in these, in dozens of languages. So we should take advantage of Shrimad Bhagavatam. Those of you who don't have a Shrimad Bhagavatam set, this is the month. This is the month of our December marathon. In this month, all devotees make efforts to go out and distribute Shrimad Bhagavatam. So if any of you doesn't have a Shrimad Bhagavatam set, this is the month to buy it. It is available in various languages. In this month, it is specially sold at a discounted price to encourage devotees to buy it. So if any of you doesn't have a Shrimad Bhagavatam, I would humbly request you to kindly raise your hand through the Zoom app, or just directly get in touch with either me or Remuna Prabhu or Sachin Akhade Prabhu, and give your name, and we will organize for Shrimad Bhagavatam for you. So we humbly request you to take advantage of this time that is there. So this time, after relating the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, which was spoken by Lord Narayan to Brahma directly, after that, then Sukdev Goswami said, then Brahma, gave further details to Narad Muni. The whole Bhagavatam he recited from 4 verses. The 4 verses are like the seed from which a whole banyan tree sprouts. Like a massive banyan tree, it sprouts from a single seed, right? So in the same way, the Shrimad Bhagavatam was expanded by Lord Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasdev, Vyasdev to Sukdev Goswami, and now Sukdev Goswami relates that Shrimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So, in this particular chapter, 10th chapter, Sukdev Goswami, he says that, I will now relate the Shrimad Bhagavatam. First, the 10 topics. It starts by relating the 10 topics of Shrimad Bhagavatam. So let us just read that verse. It's a nice verse. 1 minute. Let's pull it up. This chapter, incidentally, is entitled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Okay, so it's very interesting. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions, right? So text 1, 2.10.1. Let me just share my screen so all of you can see it. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanam Utayah Manvantare Ishanukata Nirodha Muktir Ashrayah. Translation. In the Shrimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, Sarga, sub-creation, Visarga, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonam. Right? So these are the 10 topics, 10 divisions of statements in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, which, I just saw some messages, volume is down. Are you all able to hear me? Someone just indicate on video. Or...
It's okay.
It is clear now.
Okay, you are able to hear me, right? Okay, man.
Yeah.
Now it is okay.
Now it is okay, right? All right. Let me just change my network and see if it is slightly better one. Yeah. So, so we were talking that these are the 10 topics of Shrimad Bhagavatam, which is Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Utayah, Manvantarani, Ishanukataha, Nirodha, Muktihi, and Ashrayah. These are the 10 topics of Shrimad Bhagavatam. So what we will do today is we will discuss those 10 topics at a very summary level without getting into much detail. But suffice it to say that it is said that there are 18 there are 18 primary types of Puranas, right? So the sages who are experts in the Puranas, right? Puranas are basically the histories of the world. So while the Vedas have all knowledge about all topics, the Puranas are like the the case studies. If you just give theory to somebody, they will not be able to appreciate the theory much beyond a point unless they are Gyanis. But when theory is supplemented with case studies, with stories, with examples, then it becomes easier for every living entity to clearly understand, okay, here is the theory, this is the principle, and here is the example. So then it becomes very clear in our minds. Okay, this is not just some theoretical thing. This actually happened in the life of so and so devotee, so and so king, so and so whatever, right? So it becomes very clear. So these Puranas are not just some. Unfortunately, in today's world, there are some unscrupulous people who comment on these Puranas, take stories from the Puranas, they interpret them in some way, they write books on them, but they call them mythology. Mythology means basically myth comes from the word myth. Myth, M-Y-T-H, in English means something that is false or illusory or imaginary. Myth. And myth, English word itself comes from the Sanskrit word mithya. Mithya means illusory or false, right? So it's so unfortunate that so many great scholarly people who sell big books, on their interpretation of the Gita, on their interpretation of stories from Mahabharata. So unfortunate. These people call our histories as mythology. So it is not mythology. These are histories of the world which have happened in different realms sometimes. They may have happened in higher planetary systems. They may have happened in lower planetary systems. They may have happened millions of years ago in a different time zone, which we don't understand. That doesn't mean that they are not true. They are very much true. They're histories of the world. So those who are experts in these Puranas, they have stated that there are 18 Puranas which are major Puranas. Okay, and Shrimad Bhagavatam is one of them. So these 18 major Puranas have some sampling of all these 10 topics, right? Sarga, Visarga, Ishanukatha, etc. So these 18 major Puranas have all 10 topics. And then there are 18 secondary Puranas which may have 5, 6, something like that. So this is how it is, classified. So Shrimad Bhagavatam, it has all 10 topics, okay, which are discussed. So let us talk about each of these topics one by one, right? So the first topic that is mentioned by Sukadev Goswami is Sarga. Sarga basically means the primary manifestation, the primary creation. Primary creation was not done by Lord Brahma. As we discussed a little time back also when we were talking about creation, we didn't go into too much details. I didn't mention too much detail then also because I said it's going to be covered in detail again in the third canto. So we didn't talk about it too much in detail in the second canto, but it is mentioned that there is a primary creation which is done by the Supreme Lord, in which all the, the raw materials, so to say, right? You cannot create anything without raw material. You need something to create anything. You can't just conceptualize and create something out of nothing. You can't. You need something to do anything. So that something with which anything can be done is what is the primary creation. That is what is given. The primary creation, the material nature, the gross material elements, the false ego, the senses, the working senses, the action senses, all the senses, the Mahat Tattva, everything, all of this, which is which is caused when the Lord transforms the three gunas, the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. The Lord glances upon them. When he glances upon the Mahat Tattva, it kind of gets agitated, and from that all these materials are created. So what the scientists refer to the primordial cloud, if you see in the science, when they talk about how creation happened, they refuse to acknowledge any god, right? They just say that there was one primordial cloud. That primordial cloud, it has all the elements inside it, and those elements, one fine day there was some agitation that happened and there was a big bang. That big bang, then it exploded in all directions, and from that massive explosion, the universes as we see, all the galaxies, the super galaxies and everything, whatever we see was created from that big bang over billions and billions of years. This is the concept that is given by the scientists, right? We know in our very, very casual and very practical experience that from an explosion, actually nothing is created, right? What happens when there's an explosion? There is only destruction. Explosion never causes creation. In an explosion, to say that from an explosion all the elements somehow, probabilistically, statistically, some mathematically, some imaginatively, somehow came together and created this wonderful creation that we see. It is just impossible, right? But we have to understand from the version given by the Srimad Bhagavatam that the Lord first created. If you want to understand from scientist point of view, fine. This primordial cloud of all what we call the Mahat Tattva, it was created by the Lord, right? It was like a raw material created for the, and then when the Lord glances upon it, it gets agitated, and then from that all the raw materials for creation are made. And then Brahma, who is the so this primary creation is described in both in the second canto as well as the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we go to the third canto, which will hopefully start from next week, then we will talk a little bit about this, Sarga Visarga a little bit in more detail. It is boring, it is very technical, but it is important for us to understand that this material world did not just come about by chance. There is nothing called chance. Everything that happens in this world is preordained. It is happening by the sweet will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, combined with our sweet will and our desires and our karma. Our desires, our karma, combined with the sanction of the Lord and the cooperation of material nature, manifests itself into the various circumstances that are put before every living entity in this material world. Nothing happens by chance. Everything happens by the design of the Lord, right? So if we understand that, then the technical details are all theek hai, it must be working, yeah, okay. Like sometimes if you go to you buy a big laptop computer, okay, hi-fi, someone starts, the salesman starts explaining to you latest bionic chip of Apple, and it's got so much RAM and it's got so much ठीक है, अच्छा चलता है ना, performance अच्छा है ना, very good, very good. And we don't want to get into technical details, but we want to understand that this fantastic performance that we are seeing in this laptop has not just happened by chance. It's not like some chips just came together and suddenly they started fusing with each other, and then in a perfect combination of those chips fusing with each other, a microprocessor was born. From that microprocessor, then other RAM, and no, nothing happened by chance. It all happened by the grand design of the Supreme Creator. So that is Sarga. And then the Visarga is the secondary creation which was created where all the jivas, the living entities who have a desire to enjoy separately from the Supreme Lord. Actually, we all belong to the spiritual world. We all come from the spiritual world, which is unlimitedly massive. It is described that if this material world is X, then the spiritual world is 3X, meaning 1/4 of the entire creation is the material world, and 3/4 is the spiritual world. So the spiritual world is much bigger than what we see as the material universe. But we who are eternal living entities, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipa nacheva na bhavishyama sarve vayam athaparam. He says that never was there a time when you did not exist, nor I, nor any of these kings, and never shall there be a time when we will not exist. The living entity, the soul, which resides in a temporary nashwar material body, is eternal. And as there was never a time when we did not exist. So if you try to say, when did I come into existence? When did it happen? We'll never be able to figure it out because we are eternal, right? We are eternal and we have been existing since time immemorial. Now, these souls who are in the spiritual world, when we developed a desire to enjoy separately from the Supreme Lord, we've had developed a desire to be the enjoyer, to be the controller. When we develop that desire, the Lord very mercifully, He has created this material world where we can go and we can be the enjoyer, we can be the control, or at least we can try to be that. And if we and for this material world, He has created enough. Material world may, it is like a, if you just take something and you just expand it like this, right? Material world could have been just created in one flavor. Just enjoy, just suffer, right? And by तुमको enjoy करना है, enjoy. You want to suffer, suffer, right? But no, the Lord, and through His primary creation, through His secondary creation, has very mercifully created this material world in such a manner that there is a million ways in which you can enjoy in this world. Million ways, billion ways in which you can enjoy, right? And there are a billion ways in which you can surrender, 10 billion ways in which you can suffer also. So the material world is very variegated. There are so many varieties of living entities. There are so many different places. Just yesterday and today we were in Govardhan Eco Village, right? Very beautiful. Everywhere you look, it's like living in a forest, but in a very safe forest, very beautiful and very organized forest. When you go to a forest, you get lost. But this is like a beautiful forest, but very nicely organized. For whom? For the pleasure of the Vaishnavas. So the Lord has also organized this material world in such a way that if you want to lord it over, you want to be the enjoyer and controller, you can do it if you are following the laws given by the Lord. Material nature is governed by certain laws. If we adhere to those laws, if we align our lives to those laws, yeah, material world is there, available for your enjoyment. But when we want to enjoy with no regard, with disregard to any of the laws given by material nature, that's when we incur sinful activity, and that's when the cycle of suffering starts. So for that cycle of enjoyment and suffering, punarapi jananam, punarapi manaram, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, again and again to take birth, to die, to take birth, to die, and in the process between birth and death to have enjoyment, to have disease, to have old age, all of that, a container is needed, because the soul is eternal, soul is Satchidananda, but a container is needed, no? Through which the soul can try to be the Lord and Master and try to be the enjoyer, try to be the controller. That container is the body. Who designed that body? That body was designed by the secondary creator. We feel secondary, not so great. A primary creation where Lord created everything, all the material nature, the three gunas and the senses, everything. That is something. Brahma ne jo kiya koi khas nahi. No, what Brahma has created is also fantastic, right? We cannot even start to understand the greatness of this secondary creation also. अपने intelligence के बहुत परे है ये, right? Scientists are still trying to understand the material body, just the human body, to understand body of animals and plants. People who are saying that we descended from monkeys, and first there was an amoeba which then started living in the water, then became a fish, then that fish felt a need to come on the land, it became an amphibian, then from an amphibian it became an animal, then plants came out. Really, it is very difficult to acknowledge any of these statements because there is no proof of any of this. There's no proof, right? But if we compare, scientists have actually studied DNA of these living entities. So the number of strands, the number of chromosomes, human, I think, has got 46 or something. Then there is a living entity in the water which has got 506 or something. Okay, so really the scientific theory breaks down. It's impossible for them to understand these things and explain these things. But if you really study what is DNA, DNA is something, it's like a very complex piece of software, right? What is software? Software is a set of instructions, right? I mean, for those of you who have some understand, some Matajis in our group, some Prabhujis in our group are from the software business. So you'll understand a little bit what I'm saying. But software at some level, I'm not a software engineer, so I can't claim to say, but software at some level, it is like a set of instructions given to a computer that you do this. If this is given, input is given, you compute it like this and you give this output. So these kind of instructions are given to a computer, which is what is software. DNA is like software. It is unbelievable, right? Where the human brain gives an instruction, okay, in form of DNA that transport this protein, okay, this protein which is in the bloodstream or in a particular muscle or whatever in the digestive tract, transport this protein from location A to location B. There are explicit instructions in the DNA which tells the carriers that transport this protein from point A to point B. Now this has been scientifically, it has been found out. Now to say that this has come about, I mean, even great scientists have acknowledged that DNA is the greatest, most complex software program in the world. But even even an illiterate mother, okay, an illiterate father, when they give birth to a child, that child may also be illiterate, but body is not illiterate. The body knows that the child, as soon as the child is born, it has the instinct to suckle to the mother. That milk is taken by the child, that milk is digested. Any other food you give is not digested. The DNA, the instructions, the code is written in such a way that till this age, till at least 6 months, the digestive system is not fully developed. So therefore, only mother's milk is suitable. Unbelievable. We just kind of ignore all this. This is the Visarga, the secondary creation done by the most brilliant engineer in the entire universe, Lord Brahma, who has directly received instructions from the Supreme Lord. He has been empowered by Lord Narayan to create, which is why he is able to create this secondary creation in such an amazing manner. So this is Visarga. Again, this is described in the second and third canto. Then the third topic is called Sthanam or Sthiti. So this Sthanam is described as the right situation for all living entity, and it is described as the supreme glory, okay, of let me just find that. Yeah. So Sthiti is Vaikuntha Vijaya, the victory of Lord Vaikuntha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this Sthanam, it refers to the supreme glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what is this glory? What is the glory? How is it? While it is talking about the maintenance, the right situation for the living entities, how is it talking about the glory? Because the glory of the Lord is that he is able to maintain all created living beings in their respective situation under his laws. And this is the glory of the Lord, right? So we have to understand that the laws of material nature, what we see in material nature, these are the laws which are created by the Lord. And everything that is going on in this material world are being run by those laws. It is being executed by those laws. Nobody can break the laws of material nature and get away with it, right? So he or she may get away in this lifetime, but in the next lifetime, they're going to be punished for breaking these material laws. So this right situation, the sthanam, the right situation for living entities is what? To be under the shelter of this Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has provided for all living entities. If you look at it, the Lord has provided for human beings. He has provided for the elephants. He has provided for the hippopotamus. He has provided for the ostrich. He has provided for the sparrow. He has provided for the kingfisher. He has provided for the mosquito, which is biting my feet right now. He has provided for all living entities. Everyone is sufficiently provided with food, ahara, nidra, bhaya, and maithun. Just think about it. Is there any living entity which doesn't have any access to food? Is there any living entity which doesn't have a mechanism of resting through nidra? Is there any living entity which doesn't have a mechanism of procreation, maithunam? And is there any living entity which doesn't have defense? To fight its fear. What is a fear? Fear is fear of existence. It's going to be killed. An animal is going to be killed like that. An insect is going to be eaten by a bird. The early bird gets the worm. The worm also has to have some defense, right? The deer, you may say, what defense does a deer have? A deer's defense is its feet, how fast it can run to save its life, how intelligently it can duck against the attack of the cheetah, the attack of the leopard, the attack of the tiger, the attack of the lion. This is their defense. Every living entity has access to ahara, nidra, bhaya, and maithun. And it's all coexisting beautifully. It is only the human beings who come and disturb the balance. We have this special potency of going and disturbing the balance of material nature. And this has happened only in the last 200 years. Before that, it was not so bad. The last 200, 300 years since the industrial revolution that happened, we have disturbed irreversibly the balance of material nature. It's quite sad. The glaciers are melting, the coral reefs are vanishing, species are dying, the air pollution is going to kill people in the next 5, 10, 15 years. People are going to die of pollution. What we are doing is irreversible, right? But the Lord has provided for everyone. So while we all living entities, which is the most profusely available living entity on the surface of the planet? The plants. And the plants are the most profusely available. They're there in the water, they're there on land, they're everywhere. And what is their function? They consume carbon dioxide and they produce oxygen, because all other living entities need oxygen, right? So brilliantly it has been organized. The Lord has done this sthanam. And this is his supreme glory. This is the supreme glory of the Lord of Vaikuntha, that he is maintaining all created beings in their respective situations. So even if you are born as an animal, you have performed a lot of sinful activities, and you're born as a goat, you will not go hungry. You will have grass. You will get it somehow or the other. The Lord has provided. So we have to understand that the Lord maintains all living entities, not just human beings. He's not interested only human beings should be alive and all other living entities are marne do, they are anyway lower than the humans. No. For the Lord, all are equal. He provides for everyone. And this is the sthanam. Then the next topic is poshanam. So poshanam basically means, we say, colloquially we say nourishment, right? But what the acharyas explain is that this poshanam indicates how he maintains his devotees, right? Sthanam is how he maintains the entire material creation. Sthanam asthiti, that what is, irrespective of what their situation is, he maintains all created beings in their respective situation. And these topics are also there in the Shrimad Bhagavatam. We feel Bhagavatam is there. Like you see, Gajendra was an elephant. The Lord has maintained him. It's also an example of poshanam, where he shows a special mercy. But the Lord is maintaining all living entities. And so Gajendra is a beautiful example. As an elephant also, the Lord is taking care of him. Now, Gajendra, how he has taken care, how does the poshanam aspect come? Gajendra was the king of elephants, but who was he in his previous life? He was King Indradumna. As King Indradumna, he unknowingly offended Agastya Rishi, who then cursed him that your consciousness is jada, like an elephant, so you become an elephant. So he became an elephant. So the Lord is providing in his situation, sthanam, in his situation also, he is providing for him. But poshanam, he is maintaining his devotee by giving him memory of his previous life, and when he realizes his life is going to go away, he chants beautiful prayers invoking the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and Lord Narayan comes immediately, kills the crocodile, and liberates Gajendra. Right? So this is an example of both sthanam and poshanam. So poshanam indicates how the Lord maintains his devotees by his special mercy. We see the story in the fourth canto, Dhruv Maharaj. So we'll try and give examples wherever possible of where these topics appear. They appear all over. We'll be discussing towards the end. That it's not that only one canto में जिसका नाम ही है about Poshanam, so then it only talks about Poshanam. Or there is one canto which talks about Sarga, so that is only Sarga. No, it is not like that. We'll talk about that. So Poshanam, we see Dhruv Maharaj, how Dhruva, the Lord showed a special mercy on Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj was insulted by his stepmother, and his mother told him, you go to the forest and you worship Lord Narayan, then all your desires will be fulfilled. So under the direction of a spiritual master, Narad Muni, Dhruv Maharaj goes to the forest of Madhuvan, which is near Vrindavan. He goes there and he meditates on the form of Lord Vishnu, chanting this prayer, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, which is what we all chant before every Bhagavatam lecture. We chant this mantra. We may or may not know where it comes from. Here is where it comes from. When Narad Muni told him that you chant this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and you meditate on the form of Lord Narayan. So what is the special mercy that the Lord gave? What is the poshanam? He could have just given him what he wanted. Dhruv Maharaj just wanted, he had come there basically to, get a kingdom greater than the kingdom of his great grandfather, which is Lord Brahma. He wanted something even Brahma doesn't have. I want the greatest kingdom. That is what he wanted. The special mercy of the Lord was he purified him completely. He purified him and he gave him his association. He said that this Dhruva, I'm giving you a special, you will rule here for 36,000 years. And then after you leave this body, you will go to this Dhruva Loka where you will be a permanent associate of mine. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj also, the Lord may have given him a lot of suffering, as we see in the 7th canto, but he also protected him at all times. So many ways. The Asuras tried to kill Prahlad Maharaj after Hiranyakashipu told his followers to kill him. So many ways he tried, but the Lord kept on protecting, right? So this is Poshanam. This is the special mercy of the Lord, where he protects his devotees. Then the next topic is Uti or Utayaha. Utayaha refers to the impetus for activity. Impetus, right? What is it that drives activity, that people do these activities? So it refers to the impressions that are created by the jiva's actions, which lead to future birth. So why are we in this particular body? We have discussed this before, but why in this particular body? Why these features? Why this ability to speak or inability to speak? Why this boring manner of speaking? Why this why this height? Why this back pain? Why this location? Why not in Antilla? Why wasn't I born as son of Dhirubhai Ambani, for example, right? So there are so many things, right, which if you try to explain by this word chance, we'll go mad. Oh, it is by chance that somebody is born here. It is by chance that somebody is born in Dharavi. It is by chance that somebody is born in Queensland, New Zealand. Hello, why doesn't that chance work for me? What have I done wrong? Chance doesn't explain anything actually. Though the scientists use probability and chance to try to explain everything, it doesn't explain anything. It's not logical. But the theory of karma explains everything, right? So, where there is impetus for activity, when is there impetus for activity? When is there impetus for doing anything? When impetus meaning motivation, or oops, my video seems to have stopped. I don't know when my video stopped. Was the video going on all this time?
No, video was going on. Just for a moment, it had gone off.
Okay. So, what is the impetus for anyone to do activity? Right? A small hint is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Lord says, not Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita. It is also mentioned many other in this, 14th chapter, 17th chapter, it talks about material modes. But, in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Krishna uses this verse, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangaste Upajayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kamat, Kamat Krodho Vijayate. So this verse says, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam. The living entity who is in this material body, he Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam. He contemplates, meditates on what? Vishaya. Vishaya means sense object. The sense objects that are there in this material world, the sense object could be anything. Okay, it could be anything. It could be a software game. It could be a beautiful man or a beautiful woman. It could be some movie. It could be some very palatable food stuff. It could be some unmentionable food stuff. Right? It could be anything. Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangaste Upajayate. When you meditate too much on some sense object, whatever that sense object, then what happened? Sangaste Upajayate. The desire to associate with that sense object now, Upajayate, it is born. वो पैदा हो जाता है वो. Just that desire, you have that desire and you're contemplating too long on that sense object. Now you feel कि यार ये तो मेरे को चाहिए, right? And then the cycle of activity to obtain that sense object starts, right? I'll just give an interesting anecdote. Today when we were coming back from Govardhan Eco Village, we had one small boy in our car. He was just 5 years old, very small child. So my wife had gone to buy something, and he wanted some wafers. Okay, this chips, Lay's का कुछ उसको chips चाहिए था. So he was pointing out to us that मेरे को ये chips चाहिए. So his mother was there, I was there in the car. So I was pretending not to understand. The mother didn't want to buy it, so I was pretending not to understand. He said, Prabhuji, small boy, he's just 5 years old. He's going to be 6 in a few months. A young guy, but very intelligent. So he's telling me, Prabhuji, you can see those 3 rickshaws over there? I said, yes. Then he said, after the rickshaw, you can see there's a motorcycle there? I said, yes. He said, behind that motorcycle, there is a shop. I said, yes. He said, just look above the motorcycle. You can see there those packets have been put up. And I was pretending, no, I can't see. I can see a tree. He said, yes, tree is there. But below the tree and above the motorcycle are those packets. So how much effort he was putting, small boy, innocent fellow, how much effort he was putting because he wanted it. He wanted it at any cost, right? So this is, while we may laugh, ये बच्चा है, बेचारा बच्चा कितना मेहनत किया for one packet of wafers, but this is our situation. हम भी वही करते हैं. Once we decide that we want something, we also start a very elaborate plan of activities कि हम लोग क्या करेंगे इसको हासिल करने के लिए, इसको obtain करने के लिए, what मेहनत we will do. We get into that long cycle. We start thinking, and we start endeavoring, working very hard. Sangaste upajayate. But if I don't, and then that that desire becomes calmer. It becomes like, last I must have it. I must have it. चाहिए ये किसी भी हाल में चाहिए, and you start really pushing hard for it. Sangat sanjayate kaman. It becomes calm. It becomes, last I must have it. Like this young boy started getting desperate because the car was started, and we were starting to move away from that point. So he got desperate. And kama krodho bhi jayate. At some point of time, he realized we're not getting it. He's not getting it, and he became very angry. He felt we were mocking him, usko hum log mazak uda rahe the, and therefore we didn't buy it. He became very angry. So like this, sorry.
Prabhuji, video is gone.
Yeah. Sorry. My laptop was running out of battery, so I'm just putting on charger. Just a second. So kama krodho bhi jayate, because his desire was not fulfilled, he became angry. Right? क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रमात् स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. And he became angry. Then he started beating his mother, and the whole story, right? All intelligence was lost. So we can see these things practically happening, right? That these desires, there are sense objects all around us. If we meditate for too long, immediately the intelligence, the mind comes into action. Say, hey, you want this? You must have this, right? So this is how the material world works. This utayaha, this impetus for activity, these impressions, okay, which are created by the jiva's actions, right? So even if I am contemplating some sense object for too long, okay, and I realize, nahi yaar, मैं तो ऐसे कभी नहीं पा पाऊंगा, BMW कार, नो वे, ये तो एक गाड़ी कुछ 25 लाख का है, तो मेरे तो मीन्स के बाहर है. बट यार, अगर ये गाड़ी मेरे पास होती तो कितना अच्छा होता. सो नाइस. आई विल वर्क वेरी हार्ड, आई विल ट्राई वेरी हार्ड, मेहनत करूंगा, एंड बिफोर आई रिटायर आई विल बाय अ BMW. Unfortunately, person works like a donkey, really works very hard. Unfortunately, dies at the age of 45 with a heart attack. Happens. It happened with at least 3 of my colleagues now. Okay, my ex-colleagues from SAP and Oracle, 3 of them have died of heart attacks, right? At the age of 40, 42, 45, like that. So if you die with that unfulfilled desire, then what happens? The super soul carries that soul with the subtle body and these impressions that are created on the mind. The mind is part of the subtle body. When it's transferred to another body, those impressions are there. And at the appropriate time, the super soul reminds you of your memories. He will not remind you that last janam mein ye tera ichha tha. The super soul, if you have good karma, he will remind you, and he will create a circumstance for you where your desire can be fulfilled. Utaya. Right? So we see an example of this in Maharaj Bharat. Maharaj Bharat was a great devotee of the Lord, but unfortunately he got attached to a deer. It is described. The Srimad Bhagavatam got attached to a deer in 6th canto. Got attached to a deer, and because of that attachment, at the time of death, he forgot all his sadhana. He forgot all his, his Ishtadev. He forgot everything. At the time of death, he was thinking about a deer. What will happen to my deer? What will happen to my deer? We'll come to all these stories as we go along. Beautiful stories. See, the first and second canto are a lot of theory. First canto had a lot of stories. Second canto is a lot of theory. But from the third canto onwards, a lot of beautiful stories will also start coming. A lot of learning that we can get from every single story. There's so much to learn, right? So we'll come along with these stories as we go along. So in this story, he was born as a deer in his next life. He was not liberated. He didn't get mukti at the end of his life. He didn't get the association with Supreme Personality of Godhead. Though he was in a very elevated stage before he met the deer. He got so attached to the deer, he became a deer in his next life. This is a practical example of the 8.6, where Krishna says, at the time of death, what impressions you have in your mind, accordingly you will get a body in your next life. So he was thinking of a deer. He was born as a deer, but then after that, In that lifetime, he was, because he was in such an elevated stage in his previous life, therefore he still had memory. Other normally people don't have memory of their previous life. He had memory. He realized, oh my God, what a blunder I have committed. I've committed such a blunder. I could have perfected my life. Very stupidly, I got attached to this deer. And because of that, I would take birth as a deer again. So he just waited till he left this body, and he was born again as a as a son of a Brahmana, where he had all opportunity. Again, this is Bhagavad Gita in action. That's why I say, Bhagavad Gita may be theory, but Srimad Bhagavatam is like the case studies where examples are given of principles given in the Bhagavad Gita. In Gita, Krishna says, Name bhaktya pranashati, kaunteya pratijanihi, name bhaktya pranashati, my devotee shall never perish. Right? Sadhu reva samantavya, even if he performs abominable activities to be considered a saintly person, my devotee shall not perish. The Lord has said, the Gita. We see the story of Bharat Maharaj, how he presumably perished. He was born as a deer, but he still had memory. When he was born as a human, he was born in the son of a Brahmana. Srimatam, what is that? Suchinam Srimatam Gehe, Yogo Brashta Vijayate. So, a person who's a Yoga Brashta will be born in Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. He'll be born in the family of a Suchi. Suchi means a Brahmana, a clean person. He'll be born in the family of a Brahmana, or he'll be born in the family of a very pious or a very rich person, where he can just continue where he left off from in his previous life, where he became Yoga Brashta. So that is there in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see practical examples of it. So here, in that story, he is born in the family of a Brahmana as Jada Bharat. And there, then the story in the 6th canto describes how he perfected his life, and he helped King Rahuguna to perfect his life also. So this is the example of Utayaha, where some impetus for activity is there. And the Jiva's impetus comes from the impressions created in the previous lifetime, which are manifested in the memory given by the super soul. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam. So this memory as well as forgetfulness is given by the super soul, given by Krishna. So if you suddenly, get attracted to somebody and connect with them like a house on fire, don't think it's a coincidence. It is because there is some connection from previous life. Therefore, you're able to connect so nicely. Right? This is Udaya. Then Manvantarani. Manvantarani basically talks about the Manus, right? This Manu, we are all said to be descendants of Manu. Manava comes from Manu. We're descendants of Manu. Manu is the empowered person who, for a particular period of time, is given the responsibility of managing the material creation, so to say. So time is divided as Manvantara. That this Manu was there from this time to this time. Then this Manu was there from this time to this time. So Manu is also a position. Like Indra is a position, Agni is a position, Vayu is a position. It's a service that is occupied by a particular empowered, pious living entity for a particular span of time. Similarly, Manvantara, the Swayambhu Manu and Chakshusha Manu, they are mentioned in the 3rd canto, 4th canto, 5th canto, 6th canto, 7th canto. Then the 8th canto 8th, 9th and 12th canto talks about Vaivasvata Manu. So these stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they describe the histories of these Manus, who are the great kings and other saintly kings, other Raja Rishis. They are also described. This is another topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, where descriptions are given of these Manus, Prajapatis, great kings, right? Why? So that we can learn from them. And then there are histories of saintly people who lived under these great kings, who lived in the time of these great kings, these Raja Rishis, right? Like, for example, in the 4th canto, we see the story of which will come soon. Hopefully, in the next few months, we will come to 4th canto. So in that, there is the story of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni was a great rishi. He was married to the king of the world, Manu's daughter. Right? His daughter was Devahuti. Now imagine Kardama Muni was living in a forest, and he was married to the daughter of the king of the world. He was one of the Prajapatis, one of the designated Prajapatis, right? So he had 9 daughters. He had one son. The son was the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Kapil Dev, who is mentioned in the 3rd canto. Sorry, I said 4th canto. It's in the 3rd canto. So, so these great sages who lived at the time of these Manus, who lived at the time of these great Raja Rishis, there are stories about them also. So this is called Manvantarani. So stories of sages and kings who lived in different Manvantaras. This is another topic mentioned in the Puranas, specifically in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then there is Ishanu Katha. A few days back, His Grace Yugavatar Prabhu, he gave a very beautiful Bhagavatam class. I would humbly urge, actually, maybe Remuna Prabhu, if it is possible, we can put the link to that lecture on our, on all our groups. And I would humbly urge everyone to kindly take out time and hear that lecture. Was simply superlative. It was just awesome lecture, superb lecture. So in that lecture, one of the interesting points he mentioned, he said that in many languages, when we say thaka means to be tired. Hindi we say thak gaya. Marathi also we say thakla. In Bengali we say thakilo. So this thaka, it indicates tiredness. So what is it that removes that tiredness? The opposite of thaka is katha. So this katha, this beautiful Hari Katha, Ishanu Katha, which is the next topic of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This Katha, which refers to the description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his various avatars, his devotees. This is what we call Ishanu Katha. So the Lord is very, very merciful, right? Out of his causeless mercy, he descends to different planets, not just this earth planet. He descends in different planets at different points of times. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, right? Abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So the Lord keeps manifesting himself. He keeps incarnating himself from time to time. Whenever there is a decline in religious principles, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. The Lord keeps coming. And it is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam only in the 1st canto that like the waves in the ocean, that many incarnations are there. We don't know. We have only information about some 10, 15 incarnations, but there are hundreds and thousands of incarnations. The Lord keeps coming wherever he is needed, wherever he is wanted, wherever he is called, or wherever he is needed, the Lord comes, right? So this merciful Lord, out of his causeless mercy, he keeps coming to various planets at different points of time in the material world. And what does he do there? He acts for the salvation of the conditioned souls. The Lord, when he comes, he doesn't just come like a, like a point actor who just come, do something and go. No. Whenever the Lord comes, whatever activities he does, he is only acting for what? Paritranaya sadhunam. He wants to attract the hearts of the conditioned living entities who are badly stuck in this material Maya Jal. We're all stuck in this illusory web, which we discussed in previous few lectures about Maya. Last time in the Chatushloki, we were speaking about it. Lord said that anything that's not connected with me, which someone thinks is not connected, everything is connected with the Lord. Everything is the Lord, right? We discussed that. But anyone who thinks that something is not connected with the Lord, that is Maya. We're all stuck in Maya, thinking I'll enjoy this, I'll enjoy that, I'll do this, I'll avoid this suffering, I'll avoid that suffering. We're all in Maya, right? But the Lord wants to come with his superlative, attractive appearance. Sometimes वो बोलते हैं ना हीरो की एंट्री भी एक धमाकेदार होती है. The hero comes first, they show his feet, and then they show his hands on his hips, and then they show his smiling face looking at the villain, and then the hero makes an entry, right? The Lord's entry only is dhamakedar, right? His entry is dhamakedar, his activities are dhamakedar. Janma karma cha me divyam. His birth and activities are transcendental. Janma karma cha me divyam. Evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. Mameti so Arjuna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, after these two words, paritranaya sadhunam, after the yada yada dharmasya paritranaya sadhunam, after this, the next verse is this one. Janma karma cha me divyam. That I come time to time, but don't think that my birth and activities are like, oh, jaisa I was born, he was also born. Jaisa main, I perform love stories, he also perform love stories. No, sorry, sir. Janma karma cha me divyam. The birth and activities of the Lord are transcendental. Evam yo veti tattva, the one who just understands this with certainty in essence, tattvataha, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. After giving up this body, this horrible material body, after giving it up, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti, there will be no further birth or death. Mameti so Arjuna, he will come back to me in the spiritual world. The Lord is assuring. So this Ishanu Katha, this is what makes, Prabhupada says in the purport to this 5th verse, he says, this is what makes these histories, Puranas and narrations worth reading. Because when we read about the transcendental activities, birth and activities, and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his avatars, and his pure devotees, when we read about them, we get attracted to the Lord. We get attracted to his merciful, compassionate nature. We get a desire to serve him. And it is that attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is that desire to serve the Lord and his Vaishnavas, which will help us to get out of this material world and go back to the spiritual world. Which is why these stories must be heard and glorified, Srila Prabhupada says. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, we chant, no? That, that
Nashtaprayasha Abhadreshu.
Thank you. Yeah. Nashtaprayashu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. That kadak bhakti, if we want, which will not be shaken by anything, how it will come? Nityam bhagavata sevaya. Read Bhagavatam daily. Take shelter of the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam daily, because this Bhagavatam contains Ishanu Katha. Everywhere there is Ishanu Katha, right? Everywhere there is Manvantarani, there is Uttaya, there is Poshanam, there is Visarga, Sarga. So, and everything, as we will discuss towards the end, everything is ultimately connected to Krishna. So there are beautiful stories all over the Srimad Bhagavatam, which gives us this Hari Katha, which gives us that attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are stories about Vaman Dev, there are stories about Narsingh Dev, there are stories about Parashuram, Lord Ram, about Krishna. When we read these beautiful pastimes, we read about the appearance and disappearance and appearance and active transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we read these stories, it develops an attraction in our heart. So this is Ishanu Katha. Then the next topic is Nirodha. Nirodha refers to the merging of the Jiva. This is very interesting. What are the words used by Prabhupada? It refers to the merging of the Jiva along with his material identity or conditioning into the Lord's body at the time of daily or final devastation of the universe. हमें say कि ये devastation क्या है? हमको तो मालूम नहीं है क्या है devastation. So it is mentioned that, if we look at time, right? Currently we are in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. Only 5,200 years of Kali Yuga are gone so far. 4,32,000 years. Double of that is the Dwapar Yuga, 8,64,000 years. Triple of that is Treta Yuga, and quadruple of that is Satyuga. This is the duration of time. All four yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali Yuga, all four combined together is what is called a Divya Yuga. 71 such Divya Yugas constitute one Manvantara, one period of Manu. Then some X number of that constitutes one day of Brahma. After one day of Brahma is over, there is a partial devastation. Then again, after the night of Brahma is over, again there is Visarga. Sarga doesn't happen. Sarga is already, materials are there. Visarga happens again. Okay. So like this, one day and one night of Brahma. Brahma lives like this for 100 years. After the death of Brahma, after 100 years of Brahma are completed, then there is complete final devastation where everything is wound up. But even in the partial devastation, when there is no habitable place in the universe, where will the Jiva live? The Jiva merges into the body of the Param Purush, the Mahapurush, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Mahavishnu. The living entity just merges into the body of the Supreme Lord and stays there till the next creation is done. Now, so just see, it is mentioned that that Jiva merges into the body of the Lord along with his material identity and conditioning. मतलब वो सोच रहा था कि मैं ये हूँ, मेरा ये mode of goodness है, मेरा mode of ignorance ये है, मेरा mode of passion. Whatever modes the person was living in, whatever desires he or she had, whatever balance of karma he or she had, that वो मतलब it's like with the bag, वो व्यक्ति अपना haversack लेके भगवान के शरीर के अंदर प्रवेश करता है. And then when there is a creation again, when the next visarga happens, when the next secondary creation happens, according to the karma, according to the desire, that jiva again enters into the Lord, glances on that material creation, and the jiva again enters into the material creation and just continues from where they left off. But now they will have a better. So at the end of Kali Yuga, everything gets horrible. Everything becomes really horrible, right? And then again, out of that, there's a fresh creation that happens in Satyuga. So Satyuga is like a better situation. It's like a revamped situation. The living entity comes back in Satyuga and again has an opportunity to perfect his or her life, right? So the Lord is so merciful that even in a period when there is partial devastation, it's like a, when किसी का building suppose तोड़ दिया, क्यों तोड़ दिया? बिल्डिंग तोड़ दिया बिकॉज अपने को रीडेवलपमेंट करना है. तो रीडेवलपमेंट के टाइम हम लोग रेंट पे कहीं रहते हैं ना, वो रेंटल है ये. The Lord keeps us in his body in a rental state. We're there for some time till the building comes up again in a better, more refurbished, more beautiful form, and we are again put back into that building, right? It is like, sometimes these gymkhanas and clubs, they say that we are undergoing repairs. Like, we have our Sindhi Society Gymkhana over here. Time to time, every 5-10 years, they go for some repair. So when it is going for repair, at that time, we cannot go to that Gymkhana. You cannot go because everything is under repair. So at that time, where you're staying at home only, but your subscription is still active. Your subscription is still active. So because when the club is back in its better, better circumstances, it is back, because you're still a member, you still have the right to enjoy the facilities of the club. In the same way, the Lord merges the jiva not just in by मैंने जो कर्मा किया था उसका क्या. The Lord is so merciful that even though the living entity, मतलब millions and billions of lifetimes you have gone through, you can imagine how many yuga cycles, but still the living entity, even at the end of partial devastation or complete devastation, the living entity says, नहीं यार, मैं तो अभी भी यहीं पे रह के और थोड़ा enjoy करना चाहता हूँ. Lord says, तथास्तु. Let there be a new creation. Till then, you just rest. When the new creation is there, desires will also come, circumstances will also come. Go enjoy. So merciful, right? So this is Nirodha, where there's a partial devastation. So 11th canto has a description of this devastation that happens. It's quite scary actually when you read it. Then there is Mukti. The 9th topic talks about Mukti. Mukti means jivas. So those living entities which at time of partial or complete devastation, they have purified themselves completely. They have no material desires, and they have risen above. They have risen above the material, gross and subtle material body. What is the gross body? Gross body is that which is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. What is the subtle body? That which is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. When the soul is able to rise above this gross body and subtle body and attain the form of a pure soul, pure Atma, or as an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that is what is called Mukti. Mukti means complete liberation from all aspects of this material world. Material world keeps us tied like ropes. We have discussed before gunas. The gunas are called ropes. The 3 guna of material world, sattva guna, rajoguna, tamoguna, they tie us to this material world. But when we are liberated, it's like someone has cut those ropes and plack. The spirit soul is free to soar, right? Like we hear again the story of Dhruv Maharaj after he's finished everything, and he goes back to God. It's a very beautiful description given in the 4th canto of how Dhruv Maharaj goes back to God. So this is Mukti. And finally, Ashrayaha, the 10th topic, right? Ashrayaha, or the Samam Bonam. Prabhupada, uses this phrase Samam Bonam, meaning the sum total of everything, the source of everything, the person from whom all these 9 topics of Sarga, Visarga, Uti, all of these topics, from whom these topics arise and in whom they take shelter. That is Ashraya. Ashraya, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is that Ashraya. He is the central character of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He is the person for whom Srimad Bhagavatam was written. If you remember, when we were discussing from the 1st canto, when Vyasdev was talking to Narad Muni, and Narad Muni is saying, why you are feeling dissatisfied after compiling all the Vedas, 18 Puranas, all the, this thing, sab likhne ke baad bhi you are not satisfied. It is because you have not exclusively glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Please do it now. So he does it. So this is Ashrayaha, right? So the 10th canto specifically refers to Ashraya, the Samam Bonam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And one may say that then why do we need to why don't we just directly jump to the 10th canto, right? So we have to understand that these great devotees who, the conversation as we go along, you'll see it will be a series of conversation between Narada, Yudhishthir, conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, various conversations. Srimad Bhagavatam is just a set of conversations, right? Which refer to this, refer to that, reference to context, it's like that. So these conversations, these great devotees like Vidura, Maitreya, they properly describe the 9 topics so that we can understand the 10th topic. Without understanding the energies of Krishna, and then without understanding the potencies of Krishna, without understanding the greatness of God, it is impossible for us to understand the pastimes of God. Impossible. You will misunderstand for sure, or you will become envious for sure. Unless we understand that everything in this material and spiritual world is being maintained by this personality. For whom? For you and me. For our sustenance, for our pleasure, and for our inspiration to get out of this material world. Everything is organized and orchestrated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless we understand the potencies, the first 9 topics, they refer to the various potencies of the Lord, and the events that occur under these headings all take place by his potency only. So if we see a story of Lord Narsinghdev suddenly manifesting, suddenly abruptly manifesting from a pillar, how is that happening? It is happening by the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the Devatas went and worshipped Lord Vishnu, that this Hiranyakashipu he has destroyed everything. He has changed the laws of nature, changed the laws of material nature. Fruits which should come in winter are coming in summer. Everything has gone ulta now. He has changed everything. My Lord, do something. The Lord says, don't worry. When he offends his son, who is a great pure devotee, at that time I will come and I will kill him. Right? So everything that happens, it happens because of the Lord's intervention. So all the stories, all the different topics, 9 topics, right? None of them can be described without reference to the Supreme Lord. So it's not that these 9 topics are there, something kuch hai wo, and then 10th topic is talking about Krishna, the Supreme Personality. No, even these 9 topics exclusively refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, directly or indirectly. So if you see this verse which we were reading, the first verse or the second verse? So second verse says, to isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest, meaning the other 9 topics, are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, sometimes by summary indirect explanations given by the great sages. So we see that directly or indirectly, they all, Vyasdev is trying to throw light on the Lord's energies and activities, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam is actually only one topic. Directly, 10th canto talks directly about Krishna, but the remaining cantos all talk indirectly or directly about Krishna only. So they are all referring to his energies. You have to understand what is the depth of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What is this topic? What is this set of books? It is not some ordinary set of stories just put together. No, it is a description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his potencies, his interactions with his pure devotees, his interactions with demons also. Everything is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Understanding these 9 topics helps us to appreciate the Supreme Lord as possessor of all these potencies. Because otherwise, what will happen? If you understand his potencies, then we can understand his personal pastimes, his personal features, as it is described in the 10th canto. When we go to the 10th canto without reading the first 9 cantos, what happens? We run a risk. It's not that we can't do it, we can, but there is a risk. There is a possibility that we may view his form, his pastimes superficially. We may see him as an ordinary person with some extraordinary capabilities. Thoda powers hai, हाँ चलो ठीक है यार, बड़ी बात नहीं है कोई, right? We will take it cheaply. We will misunderstand. But when you understand that this person, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Atmaram, self-satisfied, who has got nothing to do with material nature, nothing to do with anything in this material world, who comes here simply for the pleasure of his Vaishnavas, simply for the deliverance of his devotees. He comes here only and only for that purpose. When we understand that again and again by going through the first 9 cantos, then we can understand, then we can start to understand that this person who is performing these activities as a child, as a young man, as a grown up person, this is not activity like you and me. These are not political activity. These are not amorous pastimes. These are not childish play. These are Leela. Janma karma cha me divyam. They are transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how can we approach these transcendental activities? We cannot just approach them. Chalo uthao padho, sab samajh jayenge. No, we must approach this transcendental subject matter in the manner explained by Krishna himself in the 4th chapter of Gita. Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantiti jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. We must approach a spiritual master and we must learn from them. We must, because if on our own we read, even if we read the first 9 cantos, हमें कुछ पल्ले नहीं पड़ेगा. We will not understand anything. But when we take shelter of a spiritual master and devotees coming in parampara and we listen Bhagavatam in parampara, then we are able to get some feel of what's going on. We can understand what is the purpose this was spoken. Otherwise, it will just be some nice stories which we can just relate to our children. That is also nice, but we will not get it. We will not understand. We need to surrender, tad viddhi pranipatena, surrender to a spiritual master, serve them submissively and ask them. Then they will reveal to us, jnaninas tattvadarshina, because they have seen the truth. They have lived the Srimad Bhagavatam in their own lives. Therefore, they can reveal to us these divine purports. We should learn from a spiritual master like that, and we must follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas and refrain from jumping straight to the esoteric pastimes described in the 10th canto. Systematically study the Srimad Bhagavatam 1st canto, 2nd canto, 3rd canto. So by the time you reach the 10th canto, you'll already be saturated to understand what is the greatness of God. Then when we read about his sweet pastimes, it completely wins our hearts. So I'll end with that. These are the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Just quickly summarizing: Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Utaya, Manvantarani, Ishanukata, Nirodha, Muktihi, Ashraya. So I thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So are there any questions or comments from anybody? I don't know if I will be able to satisfy anybody today because the topic is way beyond my understanding and realization. But if anyone has any comments or questions, we'll be happy to take.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, may I?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for beautifully summarizing the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. I don't have any question or a comment. I would like to introduce Mr. P.C. Vaish. He is a Premchandra Vaish. He is an ex-chairman and managing director of National Textile Corporation. I met him out a month back. Last time he had come, Prabhuji, last time also he had come, but he's attended the satsang. And then his name was not clear, therefore I was not able to recognize. Today he has put his name there, and thank you very much, Vaish sir, for having come.
And then
Vaish,
nice to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. Please come again. Thank you.
Yes, sir. आपका आशीर्वाद बना रहे, आपका आशीर्वाद बना रहे.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare.
Any other questions?
and
Comments?
Prabhuji is also he's raised his hand for Bhagavatam set. He has, when you asked in the beginning, if he has raised he on his video and raised his hand. Then I messaged to him that we will organize a Bhagavatam set for him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Vaishji. So nice of you. So if anybody else doesn't have a Srimad Bhagavatam, here is the opportunity to, maybe virtually raise your hand or whatever. It's all service to the Lord. These books are invaluable, right? I mean, you will pay some 6,000, 7,000 rupees for it. But the impact that Srimad Bhagavatam, it's like the Supreme Lord himself entering into your home. You can enter your home in the DT form, you can enter your home in a book form also. So if you don't have, I would humbly request to come forward, contact us. You can organize for Srimad Bhagavatam to be delivered to your place. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell it was a very nice session. Since childhood, that inquisitiveness is there about creation. Then we hear about a Big Bang theory, but today what you explained from Bhagavatam was really very nice.
Thank you. Thank you,
and one more thing about Govardhan Eco Village. It's such a beautiful place. It was my brother's hobbies for me this year, and I told him it was the best gift I've ever received. And it was really nice. I felt as if I was in Vrindavan, especially the morning aarti, and amazing it was. What I did at many people should reach there. I put my pictures on all the social media, on my groups everywhere. So with just the intention that many people should come to know about that place, and it's really good.
It's very beautiful. Thank you, Mataji. Actually, That place is so beautiful. I mean, physically so beautiful,
Very nice.
and spiritually it is very, very beautiful, very enchanting. Just the way all these temples are so nicely
Yes,
built
yes.
and so nicely maintained, and the way they do their aarti, and they go
Especially the
from one temple
Kakad
to the
Aarti,
other.
morning Aarti is amazing.
Very nice. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing. Anybody else? Any questions, comments, or shall we end here?
Prabhuji, there's a hand raised from Dr. Bothe. I hope
Yeah, that was her.
Mataji,
She was the one who was
Mataji.
speaking just now.
It's me, it's me, it's me.
Okay, you
Thank
can
you so
just
much.
remove it
She was the
now.
one who was speaking. All right. So if there's no further questions or comments, I thank you very much. We'll just do Kirtan for 5 minutes, and we have announcements by our Brahme Prabhu. So hold on for a few more minutes. Hare Krishna. There's some who already dropped out. I request the rest to hold on if possible. Hare Krishna.